All right, it looks like you're ready to move on to our next form. I just want to remind you, we'll erase eventually the box that the sphere is in, but if you can keep it there until we finish the ellipse, it'll help you to draw the ellipse a little bit more easily. An ellipse starts off like a circle like we did for the ball. It is not a circle anymore, though. An ellipse helps us to draw a form like a cylinder, like a can, or a trunk of a tree. It's a circle that is tilted away from us. The distance from side to side in this case, as I tilt it top to bottom like that, the distance here from bottom front to bottom back decreases, right? As I tilt it more and more, the distance from here to here decreases, but this distance stays the same. And because of that, we call this circle now an ellipse. It's based on a circle, but it's a circle that is shortened one direction or another. In most cases in our day-to-day life, this is how we see an ellipse, right? Here's another example of it. Circle, distance from front to back decreases. And it's really important that we still maintain a good curvature. Notice that the edges where it meets up with the side of the cylinder in this case, it's not pinched. It's a gradual change from one point to the other. Here, it's a gradual change to here and then back. It doesn't pinch or it doesn't flatten out. Okay, really important information. Sometimes you have one laying on the ground or at a side view, and the top to bottom will stay the same, and it tilts this way. So the distance from front to back from on the sides changes. Notice once again, it's a curve, not a point like a football, but a curve. All right? So that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be doing this one where it tilts this way because we need to know that to be able to draw a cylinder and to draw a cone, because they are based on a circle, unlike a cube and a pyramid, which were based on squares. Now we're going to be using the same idea we used to carve away the ellipse's edges like we did with the sphere. And we're going to make it look like it's squeezing in from top to bottom, but has the same dimension side to side. So like your directions say, remember you have these directions embedded in the assignment at Canvas for the 5 forms. So if you need them while you're doing this, get it out, open it up and look it over. You could even print it out so it's more convenient. They are also, there's a link for them in that has not just the directions, but it also has the dimensions, how big it's supposed to be to fill up this area effectively. And that makes your job at the next step, which is value building, more easily done. Okay, so we're going to squeeze it in this way. We're going to start it at the same distance from the top like we did before. So if you remember, we measured down 1 inch and 5 inches, but we're going to measure 2 inches and 5 inches, so it's only 3 inches tall, not 4 inches tall. So I'm going to put my ruler about there at the fold at 0, and I'm going to start my line at 2 inches and end it at 5 inches. Okay, so the distance from 2 to 5 is 3 inches. I'm going to do it at the left-hand side too. Now I'm doing it a little differently than I did with the circle for the sphere because that's just what I did. It doesn't matter. It's going to turn out the same way. So it's at the fold at 0. I'm going to measure down from 2 inches and to 5 inches. All right? Now, I've got these measurements. This and this are the same distance. This and this are the same distance. All right? So now we need to figure out from side to side like that. We're going to make them an inch from the outer edges as much as we can. So I'm going to start at I'm going to go ahead and start at the edge of the paper on the outer edge here. I'll move this a little bit so you can see it better. There we go. So I'm putting my ruler, I'm lining up my 2 marks that are the top of the box for the ellipse, lining them up, and I'm putting my measurement, my 6-inch measurement at the edge of the paper. And I'm going to start that line at 5 inches, and I'm going to make it 4 inches long. So I'm going to stop it at 4 inches, which is right there. Okay? Notice I didn't go all the way to my mark that I made for measuring from top down. I'm going to line up those two marks that are from top down for 5 inches, put my ruler at 6 inches along the side edge, and then I'm going to start my line for the bottom of the box. There we go, lined it up better, at 5 inches, and I'm going to stop at 1 inch, which is right there. Notice it didn't include all of my mark, right? I stopped it a little sooner. Now I'm going to line up my two side edges. See if I can zoom in a little bit more. Nope, I can't. Okay, so I'm just going to line these up. This is my measurement mark for there and there. And draw the line in. And it should be 3 inches from the top line to the bottom line. I can measure it and put it down there. Look at that. I'm perfect. I'm so good at this. You should be too. Simple. Easy peasy. Line up your top line and your bottom line at their right hand most. Now you've got the rectangle to help you make a squeezed in ellipse that is really a circle. It's just tilted away from us. But now we need to measure from here to here halfway over, from here to here halfway over, here to here halfway, here to here halfway. So this one's easy. It's the same as it was there. It's 4 inches. Half of 4 inches is 2. Bottom one's the same. Half of 4 inches is 2. Tick marks, remember measurement, cut it in half. But when we draw it, we're going to start right on this line at the tick mark. Not below it, not above it. Now, turning your ruler this way, we're going to divide 3 inches in half. Half of 3 inches is 1.5 inches. Here's the 1. Here's the 2. So half of the distance between that mark and that mark is this long line right here. Okay, it's the second longest line on the ruler for each inch measurement. So it's 1.5 to there. You could measure them just to make sure. Measure, measure. All right. Do it on the right-hand side too. Half of 3 is 1.5. Now I've bisected all 4 of them. This distance is less than this, so my measurements here are less than they are here. Okay, so just like we did for the circle for the sphere, we're going to carve away to create the curves of the cylinder. I'm sorry, the curves of the ellipse, right? Because we're going to have something like that attached to a cylinder eventually. So the distance here is less than this distance, all right? So, but remember, it's a graceful, gradual curve. And this is going to be probably close to our ellipse shape, pretty close, all right? So please watch. Remember, you start right on the tick mark at the line, and you curve to this one. Remember, you want to do muscle memory. It's a nice, graceful, gradual curve. It's a longer curve here for the longer edge, and then it's more abrupt on this side, but it still isn't a point. Okay? Once you think you've got your muscle memory developed, do some more ghost lines, position your hand while you're doing the muscle memory, and then you're going to make your curves. Nice light lines until you think you've got them. It needs to come out a little bit more right there so it can come up higher. And I went way too high with that one line. It's right in between them. Okay, so there's my first curve. Remember, I can always adjust as I go, but I like to get rid of errors before I move on, so I don't base my next marks on an error. Because that just creates more error if you base it on a previous error. Okay, so the same thing we did previously, rotate your paper. Because I'm right-handed, I always work on the left-hand side. If you're left-handed, you should work on the right-hand side so you can see where your hand is going. That's the whole reason for this, okay? So I create the muscle memory. It's a different direction now. It's a more abrupt change and a much more gradual change. So I need to re-establish that before I do it. Create my ghost lines and then start drawing my lines. Hold your paper down flat against the table too as you're doing it. Met up a little too soon right there. There we go. Okay, once you think you've got the ghost lines, start with your light lines. And remember, it shouldn't come to a point. Mine's coming to a point right there, so it just needs to be a little bit more curved right in here especially. All right? So that's a pretty nice beginning to my ellipse. And I keep rotating and keep carving away the rectangle to create my ellipse. Remember, I like to check, does this look nice and continuous? Is the distance from here to here about the same as it is here to here? Is this shape the mirror image of that shape? And it looks like this one kind of bumps out a little bit more here than this one does. And I think that's actually more accurate. So I'm going to bump it out just a little bit on this side to match it. Nope, I don't like that one either. Started a little soon. There we go. That makes it a little bit more likely. Okay, so remember, if you do any adjusting on a previous line, go back and clean it up before you continue on. Remember, you should have one continuous line as much as possible. That way you're not trying to guess again, which one's the right line? I have to turn it this way to redraw that more accurate line. And because I did that, this one's probably going to need some changing too. All right, and I can see those changes more easily if I have it turned a different direction than what I might be looking at it regularly. So that you can check on its believability. Gives you a fresh eye if you look at it from a different viewpoint. Hope I don't have my head in the way. So I'm turning it upside down, sideways, and right ways, right? So I'm looking at it from all angles now, and I can see that it still needs some work right in here. It's not quite as round as it needs to be right here. There we go. Remember, it kisses it, but it's a nice, graceful, gradual curve where it kisses the edge of the rectangle, right? At each of its 4 points. Okay, so I'm going to continue this off camera, but know that I'm making some changes, right? I'm not just satisfied with my first set of lines. I want it to be as perfect as possible. So go right to work on yours, get it set up, and then we're going to go to cone.